Welcome to Let's Face the Facts, the rewatch podcast for the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life. Join us each week as we synopsize, analyze, criticize, and ultimately idolize the show. And now, here's your host of Let's Face the Facts, the wonderful David Almeida.
Thank you, Matthew Arter. Welcome back. It's another week, another show. Thank you for downloading and pressing play. This week, Matthew and I welcome Dominik Rothbard to the show. Now, this is an interesting situation. I don't know if this has happened much, maybe only a couple of times on the show, where we don't know Dominik. He was a stranger to us until we got onto the Zoom call and met him and had him on the show. The reason why we have him on the show is because he also has a Facts of Life rewatch podcast. Yes, he started his show at the exact same time I started this one. It's really kind of creepy. I mean, my initial reaction when I discovered its existence was, well, shit, because I had thought this was the only one out there. I couldn't find another Facts of Life podcast. I thought that's what made this show unique. And I looked back and I was like, oh my God, this was the exact same time. We had the same thought and started it right within a week, I think, of when we dropped our first shows. So, hey, there's room for everything and many, many different shows on the internet and in the land of billions and billions of podcasts. So it is all good, and I saw this as an opportunity to connect with another content creator superfan. And he does not disappoint here. I cannot wait for you to meet him and, of course, have a listen to his show called The Facts of Facts. And the premise of his show is that he is a Facts of Life superfan, and his friend Britt Lundborg is a newbie. She is completely unversed in the land of the Facts of Life. So it's these two very different perspectives, and it's really a lot of fun. And I'm going to shut up now and let you just hear. We had a great time because clearly he is a kindred spirit, and Matthew, Dominik, and I have a great time discussing Season 9, Episode 1, the first episode of Season 9. Oh my goodness. Down and Out in Malibu, Part 1, which had an original air date of September 26th, 1987. I think we're ready to jump on in. Let's face the facts with Dominik Rothbard. Well, welcome to the show, Dominik Rothbard. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Matthew is also here on hand.
Hello, so my fans knew that I was here. You're welcome.
Well, this is really a treat. I wanted to do something a little bit special for the season opener, for the beginning of Season 9, the final season. So before we actually get into the show, I typically ask my guest what type of relationship they have with the show. Well, I already know you are so obsessed with the Facts of Life that you, right at the same time I did, had this idea of doing a podcast to obsess over it. So why don't you fill us in, bring us up to speed to how you grew up with the show that it brought upon this obsession?
Okay, well, Jill, I'm going to start the rivalry right here and say technically it was about 4 days before you.
It was, without question. And your first episode was days ahead of my, hey guys, I'm David and I'm going to start a podcast and maybe people might listen. So
what are the odds that the universe would gift itself with 2 Facts of Life podcasts in 1 week?
The universe gifted itself with us. I am so on board with that line of thought. I love it.
See, and my thought was, when it rains, it pours. Oh.
Yeah, it was sure raining that week. I've loved the Facts of Life since I was a kid, and I watched it when it was new, starting around season 7. So kind of like the Beverly Ann years. I think maybe like a little bit of Mrs. Garrett was when I was watching it new, but then it was on USA while it was still new, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think USA was showing some of the earlier ones, like right around seasons 8 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because it was mind blowing to me how different they looked and how modern and cool things were, where you could see, like, like the old wooden house where 400 girls lived together, and it would just be like, they weeded out the strong ones, survived, and how they have a lot of hairspray, and it's great. So I really enjoyed those, and just the mystery of trying to piece together what happened. Where did these girls go? Who is this boy? What is Pippa? Everything. Like, if it wasn't in order, it was very interesting. So because it was just a mystery. I grew up with I grew up with 4 sisters older than me, but I have 5 total, 1 younger. So I felt like I was Andy. And these not this episode, because I never went to camp and I wasn't completely ignored for 45 minutes.
We have so much to discuss. Oh my God. Yes.
But yeah, no, I've always just kind of had a fondness for it. It's really one of my favorites. And then I can't remember what it was that I was watching. It was something like How Did This Get Made? One of those podcasts. And I found that I was like, I would love that for like one of my favorite sitcoms. And then I watched the episode where Blair dates a boy that might not be all there mentally. And I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to somebody about this right now. And there was nobody. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna make Britt watch this. And then I was like, wait, no. I'm going to make Britt watch the entire series. And that was the beginning of the Facts of Facts podcast. And that is my complex relationship with the Facts of Life.
Wow.
I love that your sweet spot is different than my sweet spot, and is different than David's sweet spot. Because
my favorite spot now is Edna's Edibles. But the thing that brought me there was Over Our Heads, and how ridiculous I love Beverly Ann. Beverly Ann, it may be controversial. I don't know what you guys are not fans of Beverly Ann. All right, that's fine. I love Cloris Leachman, and I think this was like my gateway into Cloris Leachman. Like, then I saw her as Phyllis after this, and I was like, this woman's hilarious. I think she's trying her hardest. I think they don't want to write her anything really, but like, the woman can not fold a map like nobody else.
What were you going to say, Matthew?
I know. I think I knew Cloris Leachman from this, and then discovered her in Young Frankenstein and things like that. And it was so cool to see. But my sweet spot is Hardcore at episode 5 or episode 1, season 5, Edna's Edibles. I was just a mess from seeing that set again. And anyway.
And I'm one of those, like, after the Eastland years, I'm like, where the fuck is the show? What happened? And you brought up an interesting point. You said, Dominik, that it was like a mystery. Maybe that's what part of the appeal of the Facts of Life is in reruns, is that when you turn it on, you do not know which fucking show you're going to get. So at this point, you and Britt are on a hiatus. I've said before, smart podcasters take breaks or take a little summer vacation. I don't know why the fuck it never occurred to me to do something like that. Here I've been putting out a show every week for nearly 4 years now. But the deal is, because you've taken breaks, we're much farther ahead of you. Are you at the end of season 5 now? Is that where you guys left off?
We're in the middle of the Kelly Affinado years.
Oh, fuck to the no.
The Kelly, you know what? It was we had a couple of episodes with Kelly, and I was like, you know what? I think we need a break.
No.
Yeah.
Keep her name out your damn mouth. I hated when she threatened Blair at the register. And threw that jar of pickles on the floor. Oh, I was like,
outrageous. Now the whole place is going to smell like pickles. There's glass everywhere. She's the worst. And then her house, her apartment. First of all, I want to live there, and I need to know what she was playing on that stereo, what royalty free, like Haircut 100 instrumental she was playing. But I love her house and I hate her.
Yeah, agreed. 150,000%. Yeah, her apartment looked like, wasn't it like the Jeffersons meets One Day at a Time or something? No.
Yes, but like a little bit more high tech. It would be like the next level of that apartment. Same building, they just renovated.
Yeah.
It had been designed by The Price is Right, circa 1984. Like, here's a stereo with a glass opening door, like that kind of thing.
I loved it. And I hated her jean shorts. I'll never forget them.
Okay,
well,
boys.
We can't wait to meet Kelly 2, otherwise known as Pippa, this season.
So at this point, to leap ahead from Kelly, what's her cunt, to season 9, episode 1, that is a quantum leap for you to suddenly land in this. What did it feel like to be in Cloris Leachman Over Our Heads land?
It felt bizarre because I had actually told myself that when I was doing the podcast, I wouldn't jump ahead. I wouldn't watch any episodes that weren't the next one in line. But then with such a lengthy break and then this opportunity to come on and talk with you guys, I was like, all right, I'm going to break my rule. And it is a whiplash. It is crazy. Now, I feel like Lisa Whelchell's acting she's got it down to such a science. Unlike the rest of them, I really do feel like she is doing the same exact thing she was doing back then. And it's funny. She's just amped up the comedy of it. Whereas it still does feel like they don't know what to give Tootie.
Well, they've been writing kid stuff for her, and now it's like, oh, she's 19. How do we write adult stuff for her? And in this, I think it's in the second part where we get some, dare I say, black humor out of her. Where they don't typically go there, but we do get a couple of those like, we typically, one of the commendable things about the show is they typically didn't always go for racial stuff when it came to Tootie.
They did this time. Now, one of them I really thought made me cringe, but one of them unfortunately made me laugh.
And I don't even remember them. I'll find them in my copious notes. And so how about we get to it? And do you want me to do some nuts and bolts here? And then we can actually start talking about the show?
Yeah, do your nuts.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. This is season 9, episode 1, Down and Out in Malibu, part 1, original air date, September 26th of 1987. FYI, part 2 originally ran the following week. So this was never a special 1-hour episode. It was always in 2 parts from its very inception. The episode was written by Martha Williamson. This is her 6th of 8 episodes as a writer. She would go on to be the head writer and executive producer for Touched by an Angel, which ran for 9 seasons and 211 episodes. And she's also at the helm of the Signed, Sealed, Delivered franchise of TV movies and a short-run series that's been on the Hallmark Channel since 2013. And she's, to this day, a consulting producer on Young Sheldon. She wrote one of our favorite episodes, Concentration. That's the one with Blair with the Holocaust survivor on the elevator. And she wrote several episodes that we did not like at all, including, and these are all from season 8, from last season, Another Room, where Blair falls through the wall of the attic, which is somehow miraculously next to the bedroom now. We had Off-Broadway Baby, the one where Tootie auditioned for the Broadway show. And we met Cinnamon, played by the wonderful Stacey Q.
I do not like that one.
Have a listen to our show about it, and you'll know. I've got about 90 minutes of response to that. It's out there in the ether. And then also season 8, episode 15, A Star is Torn, which is the return of Cinnamon. So Martha Williamson wrote both of the Cinnamon episodes.
Martha Williamson is an American hero if she wrote both the Cinnamon episodes.
Okay, sure. We'll go with that.
That is true.
The episode was directed by John Boab. He is the in-house director. He will be directing 20 of the 24 episodes in this season. 3 of them will be directed by Valentine Mayer, who has directed previously for this. And 1 of them will be directed by Marion Deaton. Marion Deaton has also directed. This is the associate director for 92 episodes, pretty much all the final 4 seasons. Marion Deaton was the associate director. So we're kind of like, John Boab must have called out sick that week, which is why they got Marion. But anyway, so that's the nuts and bolts. Dominik, now is the time in the show where we like to put our guest on the spot and ask if you would provide a 1 to 2 sentence synopsis of the episode as a whole. And I'm only talking part 1 right now. If you could provide a brief TV guide synopsis, very, very quick. And if it does go too long, Matthew will judge you. I do need to warn you.
No, Dominik knows exactly what we're looking for.
After breaking her leg and getting mugged, Jo takes a job house sitting Richard Mole's beach condo, where she and the girls from Eastland quickly destroy it.
Yeah. Very good.
Professional writer, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. That is how you do it.
Thank you so much. I tried.
That's interesting. All I had down was this episode. Andy goes to camp. And some other stuff happens.
Yeah. I had down Andy goes to camp in September, like you do. You know,
but also, like, what was the time frame of Andy going to camp? I can't do the math with Jo broke her leg before Andy went to camp. Jo's leg's still broken, but she's now moved back, and then Andy's coming back from camp. What was it, like a week-long camp?
I think it was a week-long camp, yeah. I think I gather the girls were out there the better part of a week.
Right.
And
week.
Or less than, I should say less than a week, because they were there. Well, they go out there, and then once Jo comes clean, they say, well, we can't stay here. And then it's like, well, okay, one night, and then the next day is when they do the big montage of Malibu and LA. So that's literally the second day.
The greatest montage ever made.
Oh my God.
Yes.
We'll get there. We will so get there.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Yes. So there was a big, I believe, Matthew, you texted me last night, didn't you? Just saying, I have so many questions.
Oh, and the time frame isn't even on my list. So
okay. Now, remember, we had just left off at the end of season 8 with what clearly felt like a series finale. Do you remember that show, Dominik, where Jo goes off to LA? The last thing is Jo goes off to LA, Tootie is off doing summer stock, and Natalie's going to start school again, and Blair got into law school. It was kind of everything was, for the most part, tied up neatly into a bow.
Wrapped up.
And we're pretty sure that it was because when they filmed it, they didn't know if they were coming back.
I think they thought they weren't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But then by the time post-production hit, they were like, oh, we're renewed. Okay, put to be continued at the end of it. That's what they ended up doing, with a sense of the series isn't over yet. Come back in the fall.
But this is there to be continued. It's such a wasted, like, I was shocked by how they just took like all of the storylines that they were building. First of all, they reiterate them all in the beginning before we have just Tootie just talking to Jeff, being like, "Oh, so we're still codependent? Okay, cool. I'm not allowed to kiss anybody on stage. Well, that'll ruin my career as an actor. But okay, sure."
Did you ever learn how to read? People are wondering this in the future. Did you ever learn how to read, dude? Anyway, okay, doesn't matter. You're my boyfriend. I love you. Bye.
You can't read mustards, that's for sure. And then Blair recounts. Blair finds her Joe's catcher's mitt for Andy's camp trip, and then recounts that Jo brought that to senior prom. What the hell is that?
But Jo, I believe we saw Jo in softball gear once. Maybe twice, and of course the lesbianic overtones were not missed by this group. But softball wasn't a thing. Not like, oh, her precious catcher's mitt, that was weird too, but it was trying to. The other thing about this episode, and this is a more general note, this and the second part, the writing kept vacillating between the Joe and Blair that we love, where it's like they're different, but they're friends, versus all of this fake animosity, this, Joe's not around anymore. I didn't see her. She wasn't in her bed this morning. Isn't it wonderful? It's like, no, we know you miss your girlfriend, girl. It's, you know what I'm saying? How often it would just kind of go back to this lazy, well, we need a joke here. Well, let's make it a, Blair, you're
Facts
such
of life, they would never.
So, anyway, yeah, there are just so many questions. But of course, the first thing we have to do at the top of every season, Dominik, we got to talk about the girls' hair and how they look.
Joe looks like Elvira. From certain angles. There's like a side angle where she looks like the big poof, and then like,
Blair looks amazing.
I mean, I'm rocking a mullet today in honor of this. I don't know if you can see.
I see your mullet. It looks just like Andy's mullet, because Andy is clearly picking up where Joe and George Clooney left off. With Andy's got some length in the back. He's almost looking like a Rick Schroeder there.
Okay, I have a question about the opening scene and the final scene. I think were filmed first, obviously, and then the Malibu stuff was filmed later, because I don't know if you noticed Blair's hair in the beginning is, while it's straight, it's like long, and the sides, what did they do to the sides of her hair? Like they pulled her hair straight out, glue hairsprayed it, and we're like, there you go. That's it right there. Mm-hmm. But then when she gets to Malibu, it's like she got her hair cut on the plane. But I also wrote that Joe's hair looks like it did in the Shangri-La La 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 La's episode.
Yes. It does. It's growing into Frizzo's hair. That's so true.
It seems like the hairdressers on that show were like, there are two styles. There's mullet and bell. Do you want to be a bell or do you want to have a mullet? Those are your choices.
And remember, they just came off of their Emmy nomination. So they were probably getting pretty uppity. And they were like, I don't think I want my hair like this. Oh, really? Well, I have an Emmy nomination that says that is how you're going to wear your hair, bitch. Maybe that's what's going on here. As the season progresses, Joe's hair just gets progressively longer and frizzier. I mean, you see the pictures of her in the wedding dress and you're like, why is her hair down and looks like it's just gone through a blender?
I mean, it's not much better when she braids the back mullet part at that one point and it looks like a little rat tail.
Yeah.
Often not the best.
So
I really liked how Tootie just gave absolutely no fucks about the fact that Andy was leaving, like at all. She's just on the phone, and then Jeff is dumb enough to hear the word goodbye and just immediately hang up. It's like, no, he still can't read mustards.
Yeah.
We have our answer.
Cloris Leachman is rocking a little bit more spike. She's getting her full Brigitte Nielsen on there.
She looks great. I love this hairstyle on her.
She does. It's a great name. We were talking about how that was like, who did you say, Matthew?
Linda Dano.
Linda Dano from is it Attitudes? Was that what that show was?
Yes.
Attitudes on the
Lifetime. It was on Lifetime.
Oh man. So yeah, that sort of thing. I thought of somebody else who Webster's, the mother on Webster too. Hers wasn't as sticky up spiky, but it was Susan, what's her name? Susan Clark. Is that right?
Who the hell knows?
Mom on Webster. You think we have that locked in? I was lucky that I could see the spiked hair. She looked like Marsha Wallace with spiked hair.
Yeah, I was just gonna say all I think of is Marsha Wallace.
Well, so we've got that. Natalie's hair is back to being a light brown again. She's not rocking the red like she did last season, and I loved the red hair on her. I don't know if it comes back, but it's not as red. It's barely auburn, and she's got it mostly in a ponytail in the back of it. It's not a. Natalie looks like she's given up a little bit. I don't know what
I
that's
think
about.
the wardrobe just gave up on Natalie.
Yeah, maybe. And Blair, actually, I will say, Blair, the volume is a little less in that there are fewer layers. She's got more length, but she's got the big poof in the front. The front is where is all the, she's party in the front, business in the back, one could argue.
Yeah.
And it's Lisa Whelchel, so it looks fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
Every frame. God, she is amazing.
Yeah.
She is. She really is. Rewatching these, I think she is the funniest part of the show. She gives it her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she really created a good character. Not that anybody didn't, but like I could see Kim Fields and Mindy Cohn kind of being those characters.
Yeah.
And Lisa Whelchel really just created something very unique. That's somehow likable and obnoxious at the same time. It's perfect.
Well, she gets the chance to show a bit of range because they've got, this Joe and her relationship where they are clearly best friends, and those wonderful moments where that shows, like at the end of the Eastland years when they have that moment before graduation and you can really see the love between these two people. It's goddamn brilliant.
I cry amazing. Whenever I watch the Eastland graduation episode right before they go in, all pomp and so I cannot get through that scene without crying.
It's a great one.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
But now let's talk about this episode.
Yeah. Can I ask the big question then? If we're going to start talking about this episode, I need an answer.
Do it.
Is Joe's leg really broken?
I wondered that too.
Yes, it is.
Is it, Dominik? You know this?
So I remember hearing stories about the time that they had to write her broken leg into the show. And there's no way this isn't that time because there's no reason for her to have a broken leg. It's the most complicated story ever to begin with without the broken leg. A parasailer fucking steals her stuff and flies away, and she chases after it and trips over a woman's head who is buried in the sand. What the hell? They clearly had their thing and it was convoluted enough, and then she walked in with her cast and they were like, great. And then they try to utilize it later on in the episode by being like, oh no, your cast got wet. Let me carry you to the doctor. That shows that I'm a great guy. Sure. That's why we needed this cast, this whole episode. There's two of having her waddle in there at the end of the thing. Like, I'm back, guys. This was absolutely her cast, and they had to do their best to write it in. And they really, this whole episode, by the way, this episode could be called This Should Have Been an Email, because even though there were no emails, the concept of getting Joe back home did not require Richard Mall's house.
No.
Or multiple trips to prison for all of our characters except for Andy. It's insane. It's none of this. It could have been, the episode could have started with Joe walking in with her cast and being like, I lost my job and I got mugged and I tripped and I fell and I was like, I miss you guys, so I'm back. Let's have an adventure. When are we opening over our heads today?
Yeah,
like, we get the latest fireman calendars. I'll go. Do the books. Like, it would be fine. It would have been fine. We would have all been like, cool, Joe's back.
Yeah,
that was a brief explanation, but at least it wasn't this.
I wrote down, my big note at the end was, we deserved better for a season opener.
Oh, yeah. And I think they thought they were giving us something extraordinary because we got Richard fucking Mall. We got Richard Mall. That guy from that other show is on this show.
And that's how we're going to refer to it. That other show. We're not going to mention the name of it one fucking time.
Do they not? I mean, they call him Bull. Do they never actually say Night Court?
No, they never say the words Night Court.
They say the words John Larroquette.
Yeah,
true. They do. They mention John Larroquette and all that. No way. I didn't even notice that. But, it's like, this house belongs to Richard Mall. Oh, that's Bull. No, it's true. Ha ha! There's a joke for you. But yeah, no, we deserve better, and we deserve more than a two-parter. And let's continue with just kind of
we deserve
spiraling down.
less than a
I know you're
two-parter.
right. Exactly. We deserve more by deserving less, because we don't just have Joe in this thing. At least somebody, I think is it Natalie that says, Joe says, I got mugged. And she turns and says, you? Like, what? How the fuck does Joe Polnicek get mugged? How does anyone
By a parasail who can just then fly away?
Who that just flew away or so? Yeah, it's I guess even Blair says when they're in jail, she says, this is, I'm jumping ahead to the second episode where to part 2, where she says, well, come out to this coast and the Warner name doesn't mean anything. Maybe it is, they're trying to play up well, Joe, all your New York street smarts don't work out here on the streets of Malibu. I fish out of water. I don't know.
There were a couple moments in it where I thought this is almost looking like a backdoor pilot where Joe and Blair are going to live in Malibu.
Well, I mean, to be fair, around this time of the show, wasn't like every other episode a backdoor pilot. You never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
Yes. So true. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, but no, we don't have, that's not all that's going on in this story. If you recall, dear listeners, Joe ran off to be with a guy as well as to go and be a part of the business. This is the new job she got in Peekskill. Her guy who hired her, Eric, played by the wonderful Jonathan Perpich. He and she went out there together. So it was kind of be like, oh, Joe's got a career and Joe's got a fella. Who the fuck is this Paul dude who shows up and is like, I've been calling around police stations. We both lost our job. We started dating at work. It's like, well, now we know why the company went belly up. Eric started the company, and the woman he started with started seeing one of his fucking employees.
Yeah.
No wonder he couldn't focus on building the business.
Paul is terrible.
Dirty.
Paul is awful. Just absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I hate his sweater. I hate everything about him. Beyond before he showed his true colors and the fact that he doesn't know how ceilings work when they're not there. He just is a piece of crap. And I hated that yellow sweater that he had. But I mean, there's so much unnecessary story here with Joe being mugged.
And then Richard Mall walking into the police station with
you are bypassing one of the most insane aspects of this episode, which is that Joe is like, hey, I got mugged, so could I sleep in the police station overnight?
Because she says she's just been drifting on her motorcycle and I'm gathering, for some reason, I've got 2 weeks here.
Yeah, it seems like 2 weeks. She lost her job and her apartment simultaneously. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So what have you been doing for 2? Okay, it's not like you could sleep in your car when your car is a motorcycle. So what? She's homeless. What has she been doing? And why wouldn't she have just ridden back to fucking Peekskill?
And why is she spending all of her money on hairspray? Like, if this is 2 weeks into this homeless situation, I get you want to look your best, but
so true.
It seems like this is expensive maintenance.
I love Dominik. I love you. I have to keep deleting my notes because I'm like, for being homeless for 2 weeks, her hair still looks great.
Does it though? Does it look great?
But
it looks,
for 1987,
it looks worked upon.
Yes.
It looks hard. It looks firm.
But this guy, Paul, the actor's name is Sandy Simpson, by the way. Very working character actor, 34 credits in a 38-year career, including sitcoms and soaps and voice work and all that. The thing is, you say when he shows his true colors, which is in the next part. In this part, it's always like, what happened to us, Joe? He comes to her as though they have this relationship that we don't know anything about. And he's like, what happened to us? And she basically says, you were seeing other women. And I didn't want to be with a guy who was seeing other women. And then he is all, I only want to see you the time away. I want to see with you. Move in with me. Move in with me. Move in with me. And he's so obsessive about it. It's like, what the shit, dude?
Well,
And
she's just been homeless for 2 weeks. If I barely knew her, I'd be like, move in with me, move in with me. You've been homeless. You're sleeping on a bike. You chose jail. Just, you could sleep on the couch and we'll figure this out.
clearly you couldn't have called Eric. Clearly Eric couldn't have put you up after you jilted him.
All of Los Angeles hate her. Like all of California, Malibu, everywhere is just like, you're a bad person. We're not going to there's not one person she's connected with that could let her sleep for a night. She's just gotta have Johnny Dark arrest her. So she can sleep in the prison. You know, that's the guy who runs the pizza place from Just the 10 of Us. I was so excited to see his face.
Yeah. Johnny Dark plays the cop. Yeah. He was also the, Johnny, the oldest CBS page on The Late Show with David Letterman. He did a recurring bit and was also a regular actor that Letterman would bring on. He's got a lot of those credits. Yeah, Johnny Dark, as I forgot to write down the character's name, but the one thing I'll give the show credit for is, you know, the logical things that I need to at least know that they were putting any thought into it. The fact that in this part, it's one cop, and in the second part, it's a different cop, and they're like, well, where's the first cop? He knows my situation. And it's like, he's on vacation. You're so shit out of luck.
He's camping for 2 weeks. He can't even be called.
Yeah. Yeah. He's I think he's chaperoning a group of boys from Peekskill, New York, including this horny kid called Andy with a mullet. But
it's the Bates boys.
You're not really into the Andy years yet, have you? Is Andy on the show yet where you are?
No, Andy is not on the show yet.
Do you remember how horny he was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
all he wanted was tits in the face.
I know.
Wasn't that like a whole subplot?
All he wanted. He's like, oh, I'll take care of things. And it's like, oh, maybe I'll call up some stewardesses to have them over. And it's like, you know, oh, I don't want to go to this spot. It's like there are big Swedish masseuses there. It's like, what? And it's like, what? Yeah, you have a whole beautiful land of prepubescent underage horniness to navigate that we've already been dealing with. Who doesn't love it?
So can we talk about the score of this episode? Because I think this is right around when it kicks in.
The score? Oh, please do. Yes, please do.
It's like I don't think they ever use it again. I mean, I know you're in season 9, but it feels like they're like, oh, let's make people think they're watching Night Court by having
that is exactly what
Night Court inspired. And it just was so awkward and out of place. And I feel like it was written just for the show because they used every inch of it. Like, these are like long musical cues that it's like, we're just going to pan across the house.
Oh, yeah.
And so when Richard Mole enters, we get like a lot of it. And it was really jarring. But Richard Mole is so attractive to me.
You think so?
He's exactly my type, like a giant mountain of a person. With a big dumb face.
Matthew, you were going to say something about the music before we get the vapors over Richard Mole. What were you going to say?
That's exactly what we did, and that's exactly what they did. Was they made it Night Court music? But that's a perfect segue to the fact that the applause for Richard fucking Mole was longer than the applause for Lucy on her final performance at the Oscars. For Christ's sake! Remember when she walked out with fucking Bob Hope and stood there for about 18 minutes?
Yes.
Well, this is Richard Mole. Come on, guys.
He is NBC royalty in 1987. Are you kidding me? And
I would have accepted Dan Larroquette. He had won 5 Emmys for that part on Night Court.
That's why he wasn't doing this shit.
Exactly. He was too big for it. They probably approached him and he was like, go fuck yourself. I'm an Emmy winner.
Where was Selma Diamond?
Was she dead at this point?
Then they wouldn't have had to put anybody on a box so they could be filmed together, for God's sake. Poor little 5'3" Lisa Whelchel.
Mm-hmm. But this brings up a good point. Night Court ran 84 to 92. So at this point, we're at the beginning of season 9 of The Facts of Life. They would be just beginning season 5. And I believe by season 5, we already had Marsha Warfield, didn't we?
That sounds right. I know there was 2 Little Women, and then it became Marsha Warfield. I feel like each of the Little Women got like 2 seasons. So by 5, I think we are in Marsha Warfield.
At most. So I think we're already up to Marsha Warfield. So yeah, let's talk about Richard Mall. So Dominik, he is your type. You're into extremely tall men or extremely like Neanderthal looking dudes or bald dude? What's the deal?
All the above, man.
Okay.
Sure. There's like a big dumb, and my boyfriend's in the other room. He's also very large and not dumb at all.
You like him big and stupid, and so,
I do.
Okay,
I do. That's if I had a choice. And let me just say, when they whip out his jockstrap, I just had to fan myself, and it was like they yellowed it or something. Like, it did not look clean.
It did look used. It looked starched. Like it looked like it. Yeah. It didn't like.
No, it looked like something I would pay like $29.99 on OnlyFans for. Like, thank you for mailing me that, Richard Mole.
And I'm like, and it looked, I'm sorry, I know Richard Mall is a large man. Again, 6'8". He's a very large. That jockstrap, Lisa Welch holding, it looked like it belonged on Lou Ferrigno or something.
Yeah.
Or
no, it was very large.
Wow.
And used in a way like the pouch was stretched, I felt. And I mean, starched, David. I mean, you know what'll make a jockstrap nice and
okay.
Also, and I just thought about this just now, but like, wouldn't this have been a better intro for this? Nancy McKeon gets into like a accent. She's on her bike and she runs into Richard Mall, who's such a behemoth that she falls off her bike, breaks her ankle. He's fine. He needs a house sitter. She has a broken ankle. Let's do this. I owe you a favor.
That would have made much more sense.
This insane jail situation.
But that would have made too much sense. Are you telling me you don't buy that Richard Mall would hand his house key to someone who's still in jail?
Yeah.
I don't buy that Richard Mall would be like, hey, police station, I'm going out of town. So could you just like watch my house? Like, I don't buy that. I don't buy Joe being like, hey, police station, I was mugged 2 weeks ago and I need a place to do my hair for 6 hours in the morning. Can I stay here? I don't buy any of this. This is all just so insane. There's so much suspension of disbelief, and we are in the first scene.
We have so much more to cover here. So this all leads up to Joe has asked Blair to send her money. And here's the interesting thing. This is where I was talking about. We have that lazy writing of Joe and Blair hate each other. They're fighting. Where we really are with their relationship is the phone rings and Joe is like, yeah, hi, Tootie, go fuck yourself. I need Blair. And Blair gets on the phone. She's like, I need you to send me some money. And Blair's like, done. No questions asked. I love that moment. That was great. And then that she shows up like you do. You just show up. Instead of wiring the money to the address, she shows up in person.
Was this the next day or was this... When did she show up?
It was the next day. Joe had stayed over.
So she stayed overnight in jail, and now it's the daytime, and she's like, I'm still going to hang out in jail.
Well, no, Joe, I guess Joe needs this. This brings up other questions in part 2, but the idea is somehow, what did Joe need? Did Joe just need money? No, I can't. I can't.
The money was being sent to the police station, so Joe needed to be there to get it. However, she did not need to be locked up. She could have gone and got a coffee.
She didn't need bail. Because the cop said, she's like, I got no place to stay. Could I stay here? And he's like, no, I have no reason to put you in jail. But then she says, I guess I'll go sleep on the beach. And he takes pity on her and says, well, if I were to catch you sleeping on the beach, the penalty for that would be a night in jail. So, Joe is behind I don't know, other than just she has lost her purse, her money, her ID. She just needs some cash. I think that's the reason why Blair was contacted.
For sure. Just like in the next morning, she could have gotten up and been like, all right, thanks for letting me sleep here. Let me out. And I'm just going to come back and get my money. But she's like, I'm just going to sit in the cell all day.
Well, she sent Blair that address. So she was waiting for like a wire to arrive or a candygram worth a few $100.
Why can't Blair use a bank?
Dude, Blair's finances are a riddle wrapped in an enigma in whatever that saying is.
It's truly like they just don't have banks in this scenario at all, because this happens a couple of times where you could have just transferred the money, but no, I'm going to bring it by whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Well, in their defense, I started college in '86, and ATM cards were kind of a new thing in '86, and not all places, not all ATMs took the same, like they just didn't work. Now they all work, but they charge you. But
sure, but the bank transfer works. Like you can just go into the bank.
Yeah, you could do a bank transfer, but that would have meant that it probably honestly, it probably would have taken days. If Blair had showed up and said, well, I was going to wire the money, but it would have taken 4 full days. I just figured it was easier to come here and hand you cash and then fly home.
I guess
that actually would have made sense for 1987. We'll put that in the time machine for the writers, along with your story, Dominik, about running into Richard Mall. Way better premise. Jesus.
It's just easier to do and explaining all of this nonsense.
But with the arrival of Blair and finding Joe in jail, we get Matthew's favorite thing, Dominik. Matthew, tell us, share everybody.
We can't have it be that easy, Dominik, because then we wouldn't have needed 5 minutes of Joe sitcom lying.
Sitcom lying is the bane of Matthew's existence. And honestly, I didn't think much of it myself until we did the podcast. And now I detest it as much as he does.
I don't like it either. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, never been one of my favorites. And it's so unnecessary here.
Yeah. Now, granted, performance-wise, Nancy McKeon is a little better than average. So she's not doing this is my house. Yeah, that's the ticket. And that list is for my maid. And at least there was some sense of whatever. But again, it's Blair. Joe, you just called her to borrow money. You've been friends for 7 years. How would you not be able to, that whole thing of, well, I don't want you to think I went out to Malibu and I blew it. It's like, girl, she's watched you fail so many times and you've watched her fail so many times. How is this the place that your friendship is right now after all this time?
Even Joe says in the episode at one point, it's like, I don't even know how we got here with this lie. Like,
good.
She does it to her boyfriend. Like, I don't even know why I'm doing it. It's because the writers don't know.
That was one of the writers dictating, and they didn't realize the writer wasn't dictating anymore. They just put it down in the thing. But what's interesting is when Joe does finally come clean after, by the way, after Tootie, Natalie, and Beverly Ann show up too.
And try to break in.
Just
ring the fucking doorbell.
Don't even.
Oh, we just saw Blair talking to Tootie. There's got it. So we know that they're reachable. They can contact each other.
There are no cell phones, but people are reachable. Yes.
We're about to go get on an airplane, the three of us, and don't be scared when we show up. We're not even asking for permission because we're beyond that. I just know that we're coming.
Richard Mall rings the doorbell when he gets home at the end of the episode at his own house. But these 4 bitches are out here trying to fucking key themselves in with a credit card, for Christ's sake.
Oh my God. But that's such a sitcom logic thing of again, in the sitcom world, they're like, well, they're just going to be going from that soundstage to this soundstage across the way. Like, they don't think that, okay, they had to pack luggage. They had to get on a flight from Peekskill to LA. And then how did they get from, apparently took a cab. Who the fuck paid for all these plane tickets?
By the way, they didn't even get off the soundstage. That was just a redressed over our heads.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
The shape
I agree with Matthew that they filmed the beginning and the end as one unit and then said, okay, strike it and bring out the Richard Mall set.
Put some other sets in front of them.
Totally, 100%. So with all of them in LA, Andy's away at camp. Beverly Ann, Blair, Joe, Tootie. Now, what's the question I'm going to ask, Matthew?
Who's minding the store?
If you knew, Dominik, how many times? You know you can ask that often in the Edna's Edible seasons. In the Over Our Heads, it is fucking sane how that store just seems to not exist. And back to Joe, why didn't you go back to Peekskill, where you own a business? You are a co-owner. It's like
I'd rather be homeless and not even call my ex-boyfriend to see if he has the couch. I'd rather go to jail for fun, recreational prison, rather than go to the business I own that has a house attached to it for me to sleep in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the thing. The Another Room episode where Blair falls through the attic. What precipitates that whole thing, and then the building of that other inner bedroom, is Joe going, yeah, I don't have enough time to myself here, and it's just so busy. So I think I'm going to try to find a place of my own. We're like, you don't have a pot to piss in. You're a student on scholarship. Do they know that you're a part owner of Over Our Heads? You now have an income, girl. You may not qualify for those scholarships anymore. I think she's been duping Langley University and is going to be presented with a sizable bill any moment now. But that's just where my brain goes.
I like it.
But the point I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to make was that after the commercial, finally, when Joe fesses up, and it's pretty much after Paul is like, come on, move in with me. I love you. Let's do it. That's when she comes clean with the girls. And to their credit, there is no talk of, why the fuck would you lie? What is you wish there had been almost a little bit more of, do you think that we care so little about you that we would give a shit about thinking you're a failure and all that? Literally, she fesses up, tells them the whole situation. And what does the conversation go to? Well, do you really like this guy? Well, how long have you been seeing him? Well, where's he going to live? How does he like to decorate? Does he like shag carpeting, or does he have popcorn ceilings? Does he, is it a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? Girl, you really should. It immediately went to the man. That's
all that matters. Oh, you lied to us? Cool. It was probably man related. Then I totally forgive you, and I'm not concerned.
Yes. Man related lying.
I do want to jump back just 1 second when Blair meets Paul and goes, you must be Joe's fella. And he says, I like to think so. Then Blair goes, he's witty too.
Is he?
How is that wit? And also, what is the two? Because this is the only thing you've said about him or heard about him. He's witty too. All right. Is he handsome? Because he's not. We saw him. But
oh shit.
But there's nothing witty about, I like to think I'm Joe's fella.
Yeah.
Oh, you are fucking hilarious,
can't remember if something was cut in the syndicated version. And we all watched the DVD version, the long version. Dominik, you have the DVDs, obviously.
Yes, I watched the DVD.
Yeah. The cuts for the syndicated version were just little nips and tucks. And sadly, the montage does suffer quite a bit for the edit for
the best part of the episode.
Agreed. So, so there was nothing missing there. My first thought was maybe something was, and he's witty too. You're right. It's like, no, we're just trying to cram an awful lot into this one episode.
Another cut that I've noticed, which I know we're jumping ahead, but just to be mindful when we get to it, is when Richard Mulch shows up at the house and Blair hears something and then goes to see him. It's like the audio jumps. It's such a weird, abrupt cut. They clearly were doing some kind of bit with like maybe a misunderstanding. I don't know if it was like Blair didn't recognize Bull or something, because when you watch it, it is jarring. I watched it twice, and the second time I put my headphones on and just listened, and like they cut some audio out of it. There was clearly like a laugh that they were like, erase that. We don't want people to know there was something that happened. I
did not notice that. Now I have to watch it again.
Sorry.
Please don't make me watch it again, Dominik.
Come I apologize. Anyway, sorry to have gone back about that, but yeah.
No, it's fine. That's fine. Let me see. We're honestly, we've covered a lot of ground in a lot of my notes here.
Well, how about when they go outside for a really long time so that Paul can give Joe all the details of their life that they already know.
Oh, yeah. The exposition of, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. You moved out to LA and we started dating at our place of work and things were going great
for so long. And then he's like, I think you should move in with me. And then that's your commercial break. And then we come back and then they're catching us up just in case we came in on the commercial break. And they're like saying it all over again. And I'm like, is Blair taking like a giant dump at this point? What is she doing alone in this apartment for this long?
So true.
So anyway, yes. Now my notes are caught up to Tootie putting her dirty feet on the coffee table just after she flew across country. Like, wash those feet first.
Matthew has an issue with that too, when people put their feet up and he hates it when they sit on the counter at the store. He loses his fucking mind.
That's my pet peeve.
Yeah. He's like, get your ass off the counter.
The girls plan to stay there for a solid week.
Yeah, because Andy's away at camp and then school doesn't. Then she says, and school doesn't start. It's like,
and we don't have the business.
Yeah, and we don't have a business that needs to be open for any reason. Well, maybe George will look after that. No, George is on the road with Cinnamon. We don't have a backup that even these two queens 35 years in the future could maybe hypothesize how the fuck this business is running. And why there's no surprise later in the season when Beverly ends like, the store really isn't turning a profit.
we stopped opening it up, and I think we might need to start opening it up again if we want to make money.
They closed the store, remember, to build bedrooms for Andy and Pippa.
Oh yeah, that's right. That I know. I just meant like at this.
And it's like, the store really hasn't been turning a profit. It's like, gee, I wonder why. Maybe if you fucking opened once in a while. But
so then, but right before the greatest montage of all time
ever,
this is when Joe's like, this isn't my place. She finally fesses up, and they're like, okay, we'll go stay in the saddest motel ever. And Blair's like, I'll stay in a fancy one and not invite you to it. Why?
We have talked so much about if Blair is so stinking fucking rich, why was it even an issue with Edna's edibles and we really need a place to stay, and Tootie and Natalie, we're just like, we have said how many times, Matthew, why didn't Blair just buy a fucking house that they all could live in, and then 4 years later or however long, then just sell it? And like this, the same thing. It's like, well, Blair flew out on her own. How did the girls all pay for their airline tickets to get here? And then, like you said, Blair's like, well, I'll stay the night. So it's like, bitch, this is your family. And you are supposed to be stinking rich that it wouldn't even matter to you. Next week, you're going to talk like 15 grand is nothing.
Yeah. Those plane tickets can't be cheap. That was a last minute decision.
Oh, fuck no. Oh my God. No, it was probably thousands. Let's stop getting frustrated by trying to apply logic to this and move on to, after Tootie and Natalie talk about how much they enjoy the hot tub, let's talk a bit about this amazing Let's Go See LA montage.
Joe almost missed out on this montage because she doesn't think as a house sitter she's allowed to leave the house alone, and apparently she was right.
Correct. Yep.
But I'm glad that she made it, even if it ruined Richard Mole's life.
But they did play up the fact that Joe, being in the cast, wasn't able to do as much as the other girls. And there is one point, this is not in the syndicated version, where they've all been out cavorting and gallivanting, and then they come back and Joe is holding the roller skates and the hat. She's just the person that's been holding the stuff, and she's all, throwing it back at him.
Mm-hmm.
But Blair, shopping. Absolutely right.
She steal a shopping cart from Ralph's supermarket or something?
Pushing a shopping cart down Rodeo Drive. Blair. Hilarious, but come on. It looks like you're a homeless person.
It does. It looks like there's microwaves in there because the footage is a little grainy, and it's a bunch of boxes that are black from fancy stores. And I was like, is that a small TV and a microwave?
Uh-huh.
At one point, you know what I always take on my trips whenever I'm going to a new city and somebody says, let's go sightseeing. I don't leave the hotel without the skates that I have clearly packed to bring with me to California, because I think what can make my luggage heavier? Ooh, those roller skates are over there, and
but it's going to be worth it when you get into that skating competition with those strangers. You were almost beaten by Natalie in an electric wheelchair.
Why didn't they put Joe in the wheelchair?
Hello?
Right? That's all I could think.
Hello. And at one point, they get into a limousine, and Beverly Ann pops her head out of the sunroof, and it's all like, "Oh, we're fancy in Californian." And then they get out the other side of it like it's a fucking Mentos commercial. It's like, oh.
Did they invent that bit?
I think it does predate the Mentos commercial. I think it does. They invented that. Yeah, though they did do it in Hello, Dolly, the movie in 1968.
Yeah,
they did do it. Yeah.
How about the score getting super racist when they get to the Chinese theater?
Oh, we suddenly take a very strong turn towards the Asian.
Yes,
when we get to Man's Chinese theater. Yeah.
That's where Tootie sees Eddie Murphy's. She's like at dick level with Eddie Murphy on her knees, and she just looks up.
Yeah, she looks up at a person and loses her mind, and it's like, it's probably a lookalike, and he's probably looking for a tip.
He's a foot-alike.
A what?
As Eddie Murphy would do, he stepped into his footprints at Chinese theater.
Yeah. And Blair showing up in a Mickey Mouse visor. What a lovely little nod. What a lovely little salute.
Also got crazy then, too.
Yeah, because they showed the Donald Duck footprints, and Joe put her cast in Donald Duck's foot thing. That was kind of cute, actually.
That was cute. And then Natalie discovers a plus-size shirt shop. Everything's in my size. I can't freak out enough.
Oh. Oh, never a fat joke about Natalie. Never, ever. But things like that we've talked about.
There's the saddest shirt shop too. It did not look like a store. It was like one of those warehouses in the garment district that opens up for 2 hours and everything's a quarter. And maybe that's what it was. She was very excited by the deals. She was very excited. She was like, I can finally dress myself for once. I don't have to wear these Donald Duck shirts.
Tootie has also put tape over one of the Hollywood Boulevard stars, and so it says Tootie Ramsey. Like, she's gonna be so famous someday. She's gonna have a star on the Walk of Fame.
But they passed by Julie Andrews' star like meh, and stopped for a long time on Judy Holliday.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, yeah, Julie Andrews, Judy Holliday
in 1987. Whoa. Jeez.
I really liked Joe competing with the juggler for who had the best mullet.
True. I think she won, honestly.
She definitely won.
Beverly Ann is posing for a portrait that we never see in an audience of people that is clearly just people there that they said, hey, you want to be in a TV show? Like, you can tell that this was just literally, oh, hey, Cloris Leachman's over there with the film crew. What's happening? And it's a dude in a wheelchair doing a portrait, and she's posing. And then we never see any. We never see they never hand her later a prop of a caricature or something. It's just like, wait, huh?
Sounds like a lost bit. Like there was a punchline that they were like, it doesn't work. Take it out.
Yeah.
Because the artist looked like a guy that would sit on the pier and do caricatures for $5, who was looking at this woman going, I have no idea who the hell she is. The blank stare on his face cracked me up.
It's like, definitely not an actor.
The mom from Webster?
Yeah, I was just going to say the caricature looked too much like Susan Clark. Yes.
And then the last thing that I have in my notes for this montage was that Blair was being an absolute hike whore.
Yeah. She was on the handlebars of all these bikes with all these dudes, and then ended up walking off with one of them. It's like, where are you going? You going to the public restrooms? Where are you walking arm in arm? And we've talked about that. Who walks arm in arm? That is literally a TV and movie trope of something that people literally do not ever do unless they're standing in front of a priest getting married.
Well, that was that montage was honestly worth the price of admission. I loved everything about it.
Yeah,
It
we
was
just shat
insane.
all over it. It was awesome. Make no mistake. It was great to see our girls doing all the touristy LA stuff. And interesting to note that they, this is actually where they live and where the show is taped. They just had to go down the street a little ways.
Still fascinated by whatever that like electric chair on wheels that Natalie was in. I don't understand how we got there, but I would like to know more info.
It was a puzzle to me too, really. So then after the montage, they come home. The house is full of water. Just as they realize they left the hot tub filling up, like they never turned off the faucet, I guess, and it doesn't have an auto drain function like most tubs and sinks and pools have.
We learned that it did, and it was a faulty one.
Oh, true. So true. You are correct, sir. But anyhow, the last image is them all screaming as literally the ceiling caves in and a big, gigantic water dump happens in front of them before they roll the credits. And I have to admit, that was taking it from oh my God, what would I do in that situation? Like, it is horrific. It really is.
It is. It's
gave
stressful.
Me agita,
but they underplay it.
Yes.
They're like, okay. Like that's almost how they respond.
Look, there's 6 inches of water on the floor. What is that? I'm going to go look up the stairs. Like, wow, there's something peculiar in
it's
in
not
our
until
midst.
Natalie realizes it could be her fault and her Jewish guilt kicks in. She's like, oh my God, the hot tub, that there's any reaction at all. And then we get the closing credits are over a blurry backlit shot of Joe throwing their crap at them. It's such a weird choice.
Yeah. And that the credit still that the credits roll over, that is not in the syndicated version. The syndicated version begins the clip after they've all gotten their stuff from Joe, because that's the last shot before it dissolves back to the house. So that's one of the rare times where they've cut something out in syndication and you watch the end credits and you're like, what the hell is that? So
interesting.
And that brings us to the end of the episode and the end of part 1. All right, gentlemen, this has been a long and thorough and enjoyable discussion. Do we have any final thoughts before we close out this episode?
Richard Mall, call me.
He's what is he now? He's like 74 now, isn't he?
80.
No.
80.
Is he really? Holy shit.
Can he still feel out that jock strap?
Yeah.
It's probably much more stiff now. But I mean, depends.
Oh, Jesus. Dominik, you live in LA, correct?
I do. That's right.
So there are all those clearinghouses where they put all the props from the TV shows, all the set pieces and the props. I think you have a new quest ahead of you. You've got to find that jockstrap prop from this episode. And
I can't wait.
Yes.
I almost did today's podcast in a jockstrap.
Almost.
And I thought, just in honor of Richard Mole and the prop. But then I thought, no, inappropriate.
Oh, well, we wish you had, but that's fine. It's okay. All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye to you now. We do encourage our listeners to also give a listen to The Facts of Facts. And until we reconvene for part 2, this has been a joy. Thank you so much, Dominik, for doing this. Smooches and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Mwah. And there you have it. That was Dominik Rothbard. You can listen to his show, The Facts of Facts, by clicking the link that is in the show notes and on the episode's webpage. As he said, they're on hiatus right now. I think they're through the end of season 5, and they're hoping to get back to it soon to complete the series. But in the meantime, you got this, the first crossover episode of Let's Face the Facts and The Facts of Facts. Very, very exciting. We have differing views of what exciting is, clearly. But anyway, next week, Dominik will be back to discuss Season 9, Episode 2, Down and Out in Malibu Part 2, the exciting conclusion to everything that you heard today. If you want to watch the episode ahead of time, the link is in the show notes and on this episode's webpage. But that is all for now. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show, and remember, the facts of life are all about you.
Let's Face the Facts was created, produced, written, hosted, and edited by the wonderful David Almeida. Our theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Please visit FaceTheFactsPod.com for supplemental photos and videos, links to social media, and ways that you can support the show. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This is Matthew Arder saying tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.